So I'm telling you now, if you just lower it like this, right there. I'm not saying go right there. I'm just, you know what y'all need to do one day?
I feel like it still wouldn't be good enough. It's never
don't
good
matter
enough
what
for
you feel.
a man.
I'm telling you what
People
I know.
always disrespect women regardless. They're always going to not give us the same value as a man. So I just don't even think that.
And that's why you got to do what you've been doing. Go take the
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, if you lower that thing to 99999.
And what's going to happen? All right, tell me, the money going to go through the roof?
Yeah.
What you think, we finna make meals?
Yes.
What kind of meals?
The same amount. I'm telling you.
200 mil contracts? 100 mils? No, absolutely not.
All right, so I disagree with both of them, starting off with Angel Reese saying that she doesn't believe that men could value the woman more than they do the men. There are plenty of cases that prove that is not the case, right? If you start asking random people to name you a tennis player and a gymnast, most people are going to say Serena Williams and Simone Biles. Even in basketball, in the NCAA this past year, the women's national championship game had more viewers than the men's. So this notion that the women could never be more valuable than the men is completely untrue. For whatever reason, suggesting to lower the rims is a very touchy subject for WNBA players. When Diana Taurasi was asked if they should lower the rims, she said, "Might as well put us in skirts and back in the kitchen." What is even the correlation? Regardless of why it's such a touchy subject, I actually agree with them. Now, don't get me wrong, I think any league that is struggling should try new things, but the more I think about lowering the rim, the more futile it begins to sound. Again, I'm not completely against the WNBA lowering the rims, but Shaq talking about how they should lower it this much would do absolutely nothing. There are currently only 2 WNBA players that can dunk. If you only lowered the rim a little bit, what are you going to have? 3, 4, 5? If you're trying to make the WNBA 1-to-1 with the NBA, that's not going to cut it. Virtually every NBA player can dunk. If you wanted to make it to where every WNBA player could dunk, you would probably have to lower the rim to about 8 feet, possibly even lower. Then you got to think of the fact that dunking within itself is not a highlight, right? There are about 10 dunks like this one at every NBA game, and no one cares because everyone can do it, and it happens all the time. The real highlight dunks, the ones that get millions of views, are the ones where the players get their heads over the rim, the alley-oops, the crazy posters. How high or how low the rim is irrelevant. It's about the hang time. Well, I won't say that the rim height is completely irrelevant, but the point is, what makes these plays impressive is how high the players are jumping. It doesn't matter how low you make the rims. If WNBA players don't have the hang time, they're not going to be dunking like this. We even see this with layups. WNBA layups do not look like NBA layups. Lowering the rims isn't going to give WNBA players the hang time to be able to do the acrobatic things that we see NBA players do. Side note, I literally tried finding WNBA layup highlights and could only find lowlights. Get it together, WNBA. Do you guys want to grow or not? On top of that, I think one of the better things the WNBA and the NBA have done to promote the WNBA is put WNBA players in the three-point contest. Last year, they had Sabrina, a WNBA player, have a three-point contest against Steph Curry, and I actually think that it was one of the highlights of the All-Star break. I actually think they should put WNBA players in the actual three-point contest. But if you have WNBA players shooting on 8-foot rims all year, that's not going to happen. Anyways, the NCAA already proved that women's basketball can be even more successful than men's, even without dunking. So here's my suggestions for what the WNBA should do to make more money.
We finna make meals?
Yes, Angel, millions. One of the reasons the NCAA is so successful is because of the fan base, right? Going to your college's basketball or football game is part of the college experience. This culture throughout the decades has created a large amount of die-hard lifelong fans. You know who else has a large amount of die-hard lifelong fans? The NBA. There are 12 WNBA teams. Give 6 of them to Western Conference teams and give the other 6 to Eastern Conference teams. So for example, you'll have the Lady Knicks and the Lady Nuggets, etc. Have the women's season start at the halfway point of the NBA season and have their playoffs be at the same time. This way you're able to tap into the NBA's fan base, and also it just makes sense. When you're watching track and field, you got the women's 4x1, then you got the men's 4x1. You got the women's 4x4, then you got the men's 4x4. Even if you're only watching to watch the men or only watching to watch the women, you're probably going to catch some of the other genders' races just by default because they happen at the same time. Listen, the NBA already basically owns the WNBA, so I really don't see why not.